was supposed to be just a game. 5 friends gathered in a dimly lit room, laughing, teasing each other, daring one another to try something stupid. Come on, it's just a myth, Sarah said, holding up a candle. Aisha smirked. Then prove it. Let's do Bloody Mary. The others hesitated for a moment, then agreed. They moved into the bathroom. The air felt colder there. The lights went off. Only the candle flickered, casting long, dancing shadows across the mirror. Ready? Sarah whispered. They all stood in front of the mirror, hearts racing with excitement more than fear. Together, they began. Bloody Mary. The flame trembled. Bloody Mary. The room felt tighter. Bloody Mary. Silence. Nothing happened. For a second, no one moved. Then, they all burst out laughing. Told you, Aisha said. Just a dumb story. One by one, they started leaving the bathroom. But Sarah stayed behind. I think we did it wrong, she said, staring into the mirror. No one replied. She frowned and turned around. The room was empty. Guys, she called. No answer. Her heartbeat quickened. Slowly, she turned back to the mirror. Her reflection stared at her. But something felt off. It wasn't copying her. It was watching her. Sarah raised her hand slowly. Her reflection didn't move. Her breath caught in her throat. That's not me. The reflection smiled. A slow, unnatural smile. Sarah stumbled backward, dropping the candle. Darkness filled the room. Then, a whisper came from the mirror. You called me. The next morning, the bathroom was empty. The mirror cracked. And Sarah was never seen again. I fire. The bathroom felt colder than the rest of the house. 5 friends stood inside, their nervous laughter echoing softly against the tiled walls. The lights were off, leaving only a single candle flickering in Sarah's hand. Why does it already feel weird? Hina whispered. Relax, Aisha said. It's just a game. They stepped closer to the mirror. The flame danced, casting distorted shadows behind them. Their reflections looked stretched, almost wrong. Okay, Sarah said quietly. Everyone ready? No one answered. But no one stopped her either. She placed the candle near the sink. The weak light barely reached the corners of the room. Don't break the circle, she warned. They all leaned in closer to the mirror. 5 reflections. 5 nervous faces. But something about the mirror felt deeper, like it wasn't just reflecting them, but watching. Say it together, Aisha whispered. They inhaled slowly. Bloody Mary. The candle flickered hard. Bloody Mary. The air felt heavier. Bloody Mary. Silence. Nothing. Aisha laughed. See? Told you. She stopped. The candle flames stretched unnaturally, as if pulled by something unseen. Hina frowned. Did you see that? Sarah stared at the mirror. Wait. Their reflections weren't moving exactly the same. There was a delay. A slight, unnatural delay. Guys, Sarah whispered, her voice shaking. No one spoke. In the mirror, one of them blinked. But in real life, no one had blinked. A cold chill spread through the room. Something's wrong, Hina said. Then, the reflection in the center slowly smiled. But no one in the room was smiling. The candles suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed them. And in that pitch-black silence, a voice echoed softly from the mirror. You did it right this time, I fire. The candle flame flickered weakly as they stood in front of the mirror. No one laughed this time. The air felt heavy, like something was already there, waiting. Just say it and get it over with, Ayan whispered. Sarah nodded slowly. They leaned closer to the mirror. Their reflections stared back, but something about them felt off. Too still, too focused. Together, Aisha said softly. They took a deep breath. Bloody Mary. The flame trembled. The walls seemed to close in slightly. Bloody Mary. A faint sound echoed, like a whisper repeating them. Or copying them. Bloody Mary. Silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Then Ayan laughed nervously. That's it. Nothing happened. He stopped. Sarah was still staring at the mirror. Guys, she whispered. Their eyes slowly followed hers. At first, everything looked normal. 5 reflections. 5 faces. Then, one of them moved. Not in sync. Just slightly. Aisha frowned. Who moved? No one, Hina replied. Ayan shook his head. Stop messing around. But no one was joking. In the mirror, their reflections leaned a little closer. But in real life, they hadn't moved. Sarah's breath became shaky. That's not us. The candle flickered violently. The reflection's eyes looked darker now. Hollow. Watching. Then suddenly, one reflection raised its hand. But its real version didn't. Ayan stumbled back. What is that? The reflection touched the mirror from the inside. A soft crack sound echoed. Thin lines spread across the glass. The reflections all began smiling. Slowly, unnaturally, the candle went out. Darkness filled the room. And from the mirror, a voice whispered, "You said my name." The tension broke the moment nothing happened. Ayan laughed first. That's it. Seriously. The others joined in, their fear melting into relief. Told you it was fake, Aisha said, blowing out a breath. Sarah forced a smile, though something still didn't feel right. Let's go, Hina said, already turning toward the door. One by one, they stepped out of the bathroom, still laughing, still teasing each other. Next time, let's try something actually scary, Ayan joked. But Sarah didn't follow. She stayed behind. Coming, Hina called from the hallway. Yeah, just a second, Sarah replied. Their footsteps faded away. The laughter disappeared. And then, silence. A heavy, unnatural silence. Sarah turned slowly back toward the mirror. The candle was still flickering weakly. Her reflection stared at her. Alone now. She exhaled nervously. See? Nothing. But her voice sounded strange. Too quiet. Like the room was swallowing it. She stepped closer. The mirror felt colder than before. Her reflection didn't blink. Sarah froze. I just blinked. Her heartbeat started rising. She waved her hand slowly. The reflection copied her. But a second too late. A delay. A small, impossible delay. Sarah's breath became uneven. This isn't funny. Then, her reflection tilted its head. But Sarah hadn't moved. Her eyes widened. That's not me. The candle flame stretched suddenly, then went out. Darkness flooded the room. Sarah stumbled back. Guys. No answer. Only silence. Then, a soft sound came from the mirror, like something tapping from the inside. And a whisper followed. They left you, I fire. The laughter had faded. Now the house felt wrong. Ayan sat in the living room, scrolling through his phone, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling creeping into his chest. Why is it so quiet, he muttered. Just minutes ago, everyone had been joking, laughing about the Bloody Mary game. Now, no one was speaking. No footsteps. No voices. Nothing. Ayan frowned. Guys. No answer. He stood up slowly. The hallway stretched ahead, darker than before. The bathroom door was slightly open. A faint light flickered inside. The candle, he whispered. He stepped closer. Each step felt heavier. The silence pressed against his ears. He reached the door and pushed it open. Creak. The candle was still burning. But the room was empty. Where did everyone go? His voice echoed strangely. Then, he saw it. The mirror. At first, it looked normal. Just his reflection staring back at him. But something felt off. He leaned closer. The reflection didn't match perfectly. His breathing slowed. Wait. The figure in the mirror stood completely still. Not even blinking. Ayan blinked. The reflection didn't. His chest tightened. That's not me. The candle flickered hard. The light dimmed. And then, a shape slowly formed behind his reflection. A dark, blurry figure. Standing in the mirror. But not in the room. Ayan froze. He didn't dare turn around. Slowly, the figure leaned closer to his reflection, its face almost touching his. Then, it smiled. Ayan gasped and stumbled backward. The candle suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed everything. He ran out of the bathroom, heart racing. But as he reached the hallway, he stopped, because ahead of him, standing in the darkness, was the same figure he had just seen in the mirror. And this time, it wasn't trapped inside. I fire. Where is she? The question echoed through the hallway, but no one answered. Just minutes ago, all five of them had been together in the bathroom, laughing after the Bloody Mary ritual. But now, Sarah was gone. Ayan looked around nervously. She was right behind us. No, she stayed in the bathroom, Hina said, her voice shaking. A cold silence fell over them. Aisha forced a laugh. Stop it. She's probably hiding, trying to scare us. But no one believed it. Let's check, Ayan said. They slowly walked back toward the bathroom. The door was slightly open. The candle inside still flickered weakly. Ayan pushed the door. Creak. The room was empty. See? She's not here, Aisha said quickly, trying to calm herself. But Hina wasn't looking at the room. She was staring at the mirror. Guys, she whispered. They followed her gaze. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then, they saw it. Inside the mirror. Sarah. Her face pressed against the glass from the inside. eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. "Help me," she mouthed. Hina gasped and stepped back. "What is that?" Ayan moved closer, his heart pounding. "Sarah?" She slammed her hands against the mirror. But no sound came out, just silence. Then suddenly, a crack appeared on the glass, thin lines spreading across the surface. Sarah's face twisted in terror. Something dark moved behind her, a shadow grabbing her from inside. She was pulled back violently and disappeared. The mirror went still again. Empty. Aisha screamed. Where did she go? No one answered. Because deep down, they already knew. She wasn't gone. She was trapped. And something else was coming out. I fire. They couldn't stop staring at the mirror. What did we just see? Hina whispered, her voice shaking. Ayan stepped closer again, his heart pounding loudly in his chest. It was Sarah, it had to be. The candle flickered weakly, barely lighting the room now. Aisha shook her head. No, that's not possible. She can't be inside a mirror. But none of them could deny what they saw. Sarah's face, pressed against the glass, begging for help. Ayan leaned closer. The mirror looked normal again. No cracks, no face, just their reflections. 3 of them now. Maybe we imagined it, Aisha said quickly. But Hina didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the mirror. Wait, she whispered. The others followed her gaze. At first, nothing. Then, a faint shape began to form. Slowly, like fog gathering. A face. Sarah's face. But different this time. Her eyes were darker, wider, and her mouth was smiling. Hina gasped. That's not her. The reflection leaned closer from inside the mirror. Too close. Unnaturally close. Ayan stepped back. Stay away from it. But Sarah's reflection didn't stop. She raised her hand and placed it against the glass. From the inside, a faint thud echoed. Then another. Thud, thud. Like she was knocking, trying to come out, or let something else in. The candle flames stretched violently. The room grew colder. Then, Sarah's reflection opened her mouth. And this time, they heard it. A distorted voice. Don't leave me here. Hina's eyes filled with tears. We have to help her. Ayan grabbed her arm. No, that's not Sarah anymore. But it was too late. The mirror cracked loudly. A thin hand began pushing through the glass. Not from outside, but from inside. And whatever was coming out was smiling. I fire. They left the bathroom. But the bathroom didn't leave them. The house felt different now. Darker. Colder. Like something had followed them out. Ayan sat on the couch, trying to stay calm. We need to call someone. No signal, Hina said, staring at her phone. Aisha paced nervously. This isn't real. This can't be real. Then, a soft whisper echoed through the room. So faint, it almost felt like imagination. Ayan. He froze. Did you hear that? No one answered. Then again. Hina. Hina covered her ears. Stop it, please. The lights flickered once, then went dim. Ayan's eyes moved slowly toward the wall. There. Something was moving. A shadow, but not attached to anything. It stretched unnaturally, sliding across the wall on its own. Aisha gasped. That's not possible. The shadow stopped. Then slowly, it turned, facing them. All 3 stepped back. Their breathing became heavy. Then suddenly, a red mark appeared on the wall, like something had been dragged across it. Fresh. Wet. Ayan's voice trembled. Is that blood? The mark spread slowly, forming shapes. Letters. Words. Hina shook her head. No, no. The message became clear. You called me. The lights went out. Complete darkness. Someone screamed. Then, footsteps. Not theirs. Moving around them. Circling. Getting closer. Ayan felt something brush past him. Cold. Too cold. He turned quickly. Nothing. But then he realized something worse. The whisper wasn't outside anymore. It was inside his head, calling his name again. Closer. Louder. And when the lights came back on, Hina was gone. And on the wall, a new message appeared. Next, I fire. After Hina disappeared, no one felt safe anymore. The house was too quiet. Too still. Ayan and Aisha sat in the living room, not speaking, just listening to every tiny sound. I think we should leave this place, Aisha whispered. Ayan nodded slowly. Yes, right now. But then, Ayan blinked, and everything changed. He was no longer in the living room. He was standing in a dark room. The walls were gone. The house was gone. Only darkness surrounded him. Aisha, he called out. No answer. Then, a whisper came from behind him. You're already dreaming. Ayan spun around. Nothing. But the voice continued. Soft. Close. Too close. Wake up if you can. Suddenly, the ground beneath him shifted. He fell, but there was no floor. Just endless darkness pulling him down. He gasped and woke up. Back on the couch, breathing heavily. Aisha was still beside him. Hina. Hina is gone, he said quickly. Aisha frowned. What are you talking about? She's always been gone. Ayan froze. What? He looked around. The room felt wrong again. The mirror in the corner flickered. He slowly stood up and walked toward it. His reflection looked normal. But then, it smiled. Ayan stepped back. No, no. Aisha's voice came from behind him. Ayan, what's wrong? He turned. She was smiling. Too calmly. Too perfectly. Then she whispered. You're still dreaming. Ayan shook his head. No. I woke up, but everything around him started melting. The walls. The floor. Aisha's face. Everything faded into darkness again. And the whisper returned. You never woke up. I fire. Ayan woke up screaming. Or at least, he thought he did. He was back in the house. The living room. Aisha was sitting beside him, staring at the wall. Everything felt normal again. But nothing felt real. Was it a dream? Ayan whispered. Aisha didn't answer. She just pointed toward the bathroom. The mirror. It was cracked. Deep cracks spreading across the glass like veins. Ayan stood up slowly. No, this isn't over. They walked toward the bathroom together. Every step felt heavier than the last. The air grew colder. The bathroom door was slightly open. Inside, the candle was still burning. But now it was black. Not flame. Dark smoke. Ayan stepped closer to the mirror. His reflection stared back. But it wasn't moving. Then, it smiled. Ayan stepped back instantly. No. Aisha grabbed his arm. We should leave now. But the mirror started shaking. The cracks spread faster. Like something was pushing from inside. A voice echoed softly. You broke my home. Ayan's breath stopped. We didn't break anything. The mirror vibrated violently. Then, a hand pressed against the glass from inside. Long. Dark. Wrong. Aisha screamed and stepped back. Another hand appeared. Then a face. Not Sarah. Not human. Something else. Smiling. Slowly pushing through the cracks. Ayan grabbed Aisha. Run. But the bathroom door slammed shut on its own. The mirror shattered. But instead of glass falling out, darkness poured in. Thick. Alive. Moving. The room filled with whispers. All speaking at once. Then one voice became clear. You freed me. Ayan backed into the wall. The darkness shaped itself into a figure, standing where the mirror was. Now outside it. Inside the room. Aisha whispered. What did we bring out? The figure tilted its head and smiled. The last thing they heard was, now I'm everywhere. I fire. The bathroom was gone. The mirror was gone. But the horror wasn't. Ayan and Aisha stood in the hallway, breathing heavily, trying to understand what had just happened. What is that thing? Aisha whispered. Ayan didn't answer, because he already knew something worse. It wasn't in the mirror anymore. It was in the house. A cold whisper moved through the walls. You thought I was trapped. The lights flickered, then died completely. Darkness swallowed everything. Aisha grabbed Ayan's arm. We need to get out now. They ran toward the front door, but it was already locked. No matter how hard they pushed, it wouldn't open. Behind them, a slow sound echoed. Step, step, step. Something was walking. Not fast, not rushing, just confident, like it owned the house now. Ayan turned slowly. Nothing visible, but the air was heavier there. Alive, watching. Then the whisper came again, closer this time. You broke the mirror. Aisha shook her head. We didn't mean to, the voice replied. Intent doesn't matter. A sudden crash came from the kitchen. Then another. Things were falling, moving, without anyone touching them. Ayan backed away. It's everywhere. The walls began to crack slightly. Dark veins spreading through the house. Like it was turning into something else. Aisha started crying. What do we do? Ayan stared at the darkness. Then realized something horrifying. The mirror wasn't the prison. It was the seal. And they broke it. From the darkness, a shape slowly formed. Not fully visible, but smiling. And it spoke one last time. I was never inside the mirror. I was inside you all along. After that moment, nothing was the same. The house was no longer a place. It was something alive. Ayan and Aisha stayed together, afraid to split even for a second. Every corner felt wrong. Every shadow felt closer. We just need to survive till morning. Ayan said, trying to stay calm. But deep down, he knew morning might never come. Then, a sound came from upstairs. A soft scream. Aisha grabbed his arm. That's not real, right? Ayan didn't answer, because he already knew. Someone was upstairs. Or something. They slowly moved toward the stairs. Each step creaked louder than it should have. Halfway up, the sound stopped. Complete silence. Aisha whispered, maybe it's gone. Then, a whisper came right behind them. No. They turned. Nothing. But Ayan felt it. Cold air behind him. Breathing. He didn't move. Aisha's eyes widened. Ayan. He slowly looked down. A dark shadow was stretching across the floor. Moving. Alive. Then it grabbed her. Aisha screamed. Ayan tried to pull her back, but his hands went through something cold and empty. Like smoke. She was dragged into the darkness on the stairs. Gone. Just like that. Aisha, he shouted. No answer. Only silence again. The house felt even emptier now. Like it was eating them one by one. Ayan fell to his knees. No, this isn't happening. Then, footsteps. Behind him. Slow. Patient. He turned slowly. Nothing. But then he saw it. Aisha's phone on the floor. Lighting up. A message appeared. Only one remains. Ayan stood up slowly, shaking. The lights flickered once. And in that single moment, he saw them. Shadows moving in every room. Every hallway. Every corner. Waiting. Then the whisper came from everywhere at once. You're next. I fire. Ayan was alone. The house was silent again. Too silent. Like it was waiting for him. He stood in the middle of the living room, breathing heavily, listening to his own heartbeat. Aisha? He whispered. No answer. Only darkness replied. The lights flickered one last time, and then died completely. Now there was only moonlight coming through the broken window. And something else. Presence. Ayan slowly turned in circles. I know you're here, he said, trying to sound brave. But his voice shook. From somewhere inside the house, a whisper answered. We were always here. Ayan backed away. His foot hit something. A phone. Aisha's phone. The screen lit up on its own. A new message appeared. Look behind you. He froze. No, I'm not falling for this. But the temperature dropped instantly. The air became ice. Something was right behind him. Breathing. Slow. Close. Ayan didn't turn. He couldn't. Then a voice, soft, calm, familiar, spoke right next to his ear. You're the last one left. Tears filled his eyes. Please leave me. A soft laugh echoed through the room. Not one voice. Many. From walls. From ceiling. From floor. Everywhere. The house itself was laughing. Then, a shadow slowly wrapped around him. Not attacking. Just surrounding. Like it had been waiting for this moment. Ayan fell to his knees. And then he saw it. In the dark window reflection. Not his face. Not human. Something smiling back at him. And the final message appeared on the phone. Game over. The next morning, the house was normal again. No signs. No blood. No struggle. Only 5 phones lying on the floor. All showing the same thing. Recording in progress. I fire.